Welcome in. One of the main things in contracts that will halt a contract are roofs. And so today we're going to talk all about roofs.
Welcome to Community Real Estate Roots, Agents Building Relationships, where we explore the heart of real estate through meaningful connections. Join Alicia, Deidre, and Lisa as they guide you through stories behind every sold sign and dive into how agents nurture communities, one home and one relationship at a time.
Welcome back. So today we are talking all about roofs, and we have a special guest, Chris Grimsley with Alabama Roof Detectives. So welcome in.
Thank y'all for having me. It's really great to be here.
I love that name, by the way, detective.
I know.
We need detectives on these roofs, for
because
sure.
Some of these sellers think that they're just going to tell us that roof is 5 years old when it is clearly 25.
It's clearly the original one. And I'm not a smart roof person, but I can definitely tell you when the difference in 5 years and
15 to 20.
and original.
Yeah, I can usually look at it and say, okay, we need somebody, and that's usually when we call Chris, because we need somebody that's professional and they do this on a daily basis.
That's what I tell people. I'm like, oh, we need to call somebody.
So have you been getting a lot of calls lately about roofs?
Yes, we've had a pretty active storm season already this year, double where we were last year.
Wow.
And the numbers in March, obviously, were double. So, my phone's been ringing pretty regularly, especially with some of the local, activity we've had in Calera and Alabaster with the recent tornadoes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's been a rocky one ever since last fall. Actually, there's been something that has something to do with the roof.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I live for.
I know.
We live for real estating, and you live for roofs.
Yes.
So what you said earlier kind of resonated. One of the things that we like to do, we like to have certain people in our back pockets to use as our, in our toolbox, and you are one of them. So when we give you a call, what happens for our buyers when we're working with buyers and you need to come out and check this roof out? Can you tell us that process?
Yeah, generally I'll reach out to your homeowner and introduce myself either, through a phone call or via text. I always like to send my digital business card out to them so they have all my contact information. I'll set that appointment up with that homeowner. Usually I try to get out to the property within, 48 hours. That's usually my turnaround time. Sometimes I can get out there a little quicker if I've got another inspection close by. I can just run by there. Mm-hmm. The inspections usually only take about 15 to 20 minutes, a little longer on steeper, bigger roofs, but for the overall general, you're probably about 15 to 20 minutes on that process.
So out of curiosity, do you literally get up on the roof?
I do.
I was just going to ask that.
I don't harness or anything like that, but for my steeper
You just put that
roofs,
out. You don't harness. Your insurance company's going to get you.
Well,
Candace better not be listening to this.
Well, Candace, you don't listen.
Turn the channel.
I have a drone for that part of it, and it takes all my pictures that I need to take. It identifies damage on the roof, if there is hail damage, wind damage, any other types of damages. But I do own a harness. I mean, I'm not saying that I won't get up there.
It's still brand new.
Seatbelts come in cars, but it doesn't mean you wear them. But
no, that's true. Yeah. So to me, one of our biggest obstacles these days is we have the list side, so we have the seller, and we think we're moving along really good, and then all of a sudden inspection hits, and there's this big old statement on the inspection report that probably has more feedback on it than needs to be, instead of really all it needs to say is, I would recommend a roof inspection. And that's all they used to put on those inspections, but now they'll give their input
more detail
on it. On
some boots missing, some fascia's not
fascia.
folded right.
fascia.
I mean,
fascia.
I mean,
what you wanna
and just for understanding, the home inspector is there to bring awareness to something that probably
Could be
needs
potential
yes,
issue.
and probably needs a second look for those that are
From a professional
listening,
in that
and
field.
that's why you go, whether it's plumbing or electrical, and it's on your home inspection, you need the professional to come tell you what needs to be done. So buyers, don't panic too bad when you see some of that. Let's get a different opinion. But how can we how as listing agents can we get ahead of that?
You know, as as we were talking, I thought about that, and getting me involved early and often in that process, and just being able to let me get out ahead of it and go out, send me the report, let me look over the report that you have. I'll go out, check it out, kind of confirm what look at what he's looking at. And also look at a lot of other things as well. I check for, not only what he's looking for, but we're checking for other stuff like, if there's any type of storm damage, we check for that as well. But the main focus is what he's identified on the roof is current issues. I'm not out there to try to, get the insurance involved if we don't have to get the
Right.
insurance involved. But I also want to make that homeowner aware, make y'all aware of where this roof stands as far as a maintenance standpoint, and as far as where it's at in its life expectancy. I can't tell you to the T where it's going to be,
Right.
but I can let you know if it's in the latter stages of its life. And I do a detailed inspection report on every house that I do for y'all. And it has my company logo on it. It has all of what I found, my findings, if you will, and my recommendations.
Right.
You can take them for what you will.
Right.
But I give my recommendations and look at what his recommendations are. And sometimes they work together, and sometimes they
Right.
don't. But I'm going to tell you what my recommendation is. If it needs to be replaced, I'm going to say, hey, this needs to be replaced, and here's my estimate. Here's how much it's going to cost. If it's a repair,
Right.
hey, here's the repairs that need to be done. Here's the cost of those repairs.
And that's the thing. I don't know
Yeah.
if you guys have run into it, but lately that's been the pushback. Again, I've had the listing side and what the buyer asking for on the other side. They're like, we don't even repair done. We want a new roof. I'm like, well, it doesn't say you need a new roof. It says something needs to be, a
Replaced
shingle
or repaired.
is loose.
Right.
It doesn't say the whole roof needs to be done. So that's kind of been an obstacle. And the other verbiage that's kind of been an obstacle is, well, it looks like it has a 5 to 6 year lifespan left on it. Oh my God, you got to replace this roof. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with your roof. It's has another 5 or
6 years.
6 years.
Right.
It works when you buy it.
Right. That's right.
That
That's right.
It needs to work when you buy it. I mean, even if you buy new construction, it doesn't mean in 5 years you're not going to have a roof issue.
Right, right. Yeah, I've seen a lot of those, and it really has a lot to do with how it was put on, the first time. I see poor installation all the time, in my business or in my trade that I do. That plays a part in it. Age as well. Just how it's put on. Is it ventilated properly? Is everything? Has it been maintained? It's just like a car. Your roof is like a car.
But people don't think you have to maintain your roof.
You don't,
Nope.
They don't.
It's way up there. I can't
used
get
to
up there.
think you
I
didn't
don't
have to.
Yeah.
So what do you recommend for people how to maintain the roofs?
Well, always, keep your gutters cleaned out. Keep your that's the biggest thing. Gutters cleaned out. Keep your pipe boots, tightened up and siliconed. Keep everything, tighten up to your flashings. Make sure your flashings are not rusted out. keep an eye on that kind of stuff. Nail pops, look for nail pops on your roof. I mean, there's little bitty things that can be done preventive maintenance wise to keep the life of your roof. Make sure the ventilation is, correct. Make sure you're in your attic. Of course, I know nobody gets in their attics.
That was something I was gonna.
I don't get in my attic
Yeah.
anymore.
She
I mean,
definitely
we can
doesn't.
only get in a portion of ours because then it kind of goes up, and so it's like,
Yeah.
I know there's a big old attic over there, but I'm not crawling to get
My
into
attic's
it.
been glued shut. I ain't getting in there.
But make sure your soffit vents are not, like covered up with insulation. That plays a part in ventilation for your roof. That is the life of your roof. That will extend the life of your roof by 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
What is the average life expectancy? I mean, is it like 15 to 20 or
Probably
is it 20 to
about
30?
probably about 20 years. You can expect a roof to last. An architectural shingle, which is a dimensional shingle, you're probably at 25 on those. Just your normal 3 tabs, just your basic roofs, they're about 20 years, but those are kind of on the way out. They're not going to be making those very much longer.
Yeah, well, because you get these roofs and they say, oh, you got like a 30-year span on this. Well, insurance is like, oh, it's been 10
It's
years.
been 10.
We're not going to insure it. So, I mean,
Right.
Or we're
it's
only going to
kinda
give you
like-
a percent.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right. They depreciate it down.
Yes,
Now, a lot of
so
insurance companies
much.
have gotten smarter, as the years have went on with depreciating the roofs now based on the age of the roof, where you don't get all of that money, like you once did. At one time, it gets depreciated down, and you only get a portion based on the age of the roof. You're on the hook for the other.
Yeah, but
And roofs are not
it
cheap.
seems like 8 years these days is like the top end. If it's more
It
than
is.
8, I had an insurance company not too long ago that was not going to insure the house because the roof was
Replacement
more.
cost value, versus an actual cash value. Now, I know a lot of, there are some insurance companies out there that will write them over 15 years that I know of, that
Yeah.
I've dealt with. And, but obviously, they're getting smarter. They're going out with their drones now. They're doing prior inspections beforehand.
Yep.
Versus where they used to not do that.
Right.
They would just write it and just take your word for it. But now they don't. They're going out and checking things to see if you got damage, because you would have people in times past not fix the damage, change insurance
Right.
companies, and refile when a new storm came
Yep.
through. So that's
No.
why they've gotten a little
Yeah.
little
A
wiser.
little smarter, yeah.
little smarter.
I mean,
It is a
I
little
get
bit.
that. It just stinks sometimes.
Yeah,
Because
it does.
It does.
We, fight a lot with the insurance company. We want them to
Yeah.
cover certain things, and then, like you said, it depreciates so fast.
So I have a question.
Yes.
So if you're having to replace an entire roof and you've got the wood piece, the fascia board,
Fascia,
fascia
yeah.
boards
Yes,
are bad,
Yes.
do you replace those when you put a new roof on, or you just stick the roof on top of bad wood?
Well, no, ma'am. We would actually, replace that wood, because you have to have a nailable surface when we're putting on like our drip edge and stuff like that. That's a code requirement. We follow all code guidelines. I follow all code guidelines per that city. Whatever that guideline may be. We have to have a nailable surface whenever we're putting on either shingles, or whether we're putting on drip edge, whether we're putting on gutters, so we're going to make sure that we take care of that. We're going to take pictures. We're going to document everything for that homeowner to see before and after photos, so they see what we're seeing, in real time. And then I update my homeowners throughout that process when I'm putting a roof on via text with pictures.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
nice.
so they know what's going on, especially if
Yeah.
they're not there,
Right.
at home. I always like to let them know what's going on,
Well, and
being
let's-
transparent.
Let's
Yeah.
face it, we don't. Do I really want to know what makes a roof tick? No.
That's why we have you.
That's why we
Yeah.
have you.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
what I tell people. I'm like, I can't tell you how much life is on this roof.
Right.
Because, you have one and they have lots of trees, and there you get that.
Right.
Sap.
They get something
All
from
kinds
the
of stuff.
trees and it looks black.
Yeah, staining. It
Yeah,
stains
it's,
the roof.
yeah, and But that automatically makes the roof bad, and I'm like, I don't know that.
Well, trees are not good. I mean, it's
Trees are
always
not
it's
good.
always good to have them cut back. And I do tree service as well. I have a guy that works with me on in
Oh,
my
no, that's
business.
really good to
I would
know.
say, yeah.
So you do the roof, gutters, and trees.
Yes, yes. So I like to be on the front line, especially when storms hit. That way, they're not having to call up a tree guy. They're not having to call up a gutter person. I kind of like try to be that one-stop shop, with my company, and be of service to that homeowner, so they're not having to make multiple calls to multiple people.
That's
like
great.
To make one phone call.
A good tree person's hard to find.
Yeah, and he's reasonable, and he does everything, to my liking and to my homeowners,
Right.
and he's very, very good reviews
Can he
with him.
grind the stumps too?
Yeah, he does
Okay.
it all. Pretty much everything you can think of.
That seems to be a
Yeah, it seems to-
question.
yeah, they'll just cut it down and leave the stump. And
Yeah, but I mean, that seems to be a big question on some
Yeah.
of the Facebook real estate sites now, is looking for someone that can grind a stump where
Yeah.
somebody did just cut the tree down and
Yeah.
leave it in the
and
yard.
a lot of those guys are not cheap. I mean, a lot of these
Oh,
tree companies,
no.
they charge a lot of money, and I found this guy's he was somebody that was referred to me through my gutter, my gutter guy.
Well, that's the best way.
And he trusts him, and he's done work with him before, so I'm like, that's awesome. I've been looking for a tree guy, because you always have that, when you run across storms and stuff like that. Let's get it off the house. That's the first thing,
Well, yeah.
Let's get it moved, so
Right.
we can, get the tarp up,
Well,
so.
you can't figure out how the damage is if you got the tree
Exactly.
laying across
Exactly.
the top of it.
Yes.
Okay, so the next question is, you have these roofing companies now that come out and, I'm just going to say pressure wash. I'm sure that's not the right lingo to say, but
Roof
wash
wash.
the.
Yeah, roof wash.
Is that really a good thing? Like, you really should do that every now and then?
Well, it's funny you asked this question. I was at a lunch and learn today in Pelham, and they asked me the same question. So this must be going around with the realtors pretty heavy
Well,
right
you
now.
see more of it this time of year when
yeah.
those companies come out of the woodwork, and
Right,
we
right.
can make your roof like
Well,
brand
it
new
is-
again.
It is. I think it's a time and place for that. In my opinion, for that. I mean, I per se haven't, seen it done or know of anybody that's had it done yet. But I've seen a lot of advertisement for like Roof Max and
Yes.
Alpha Wash. I
Yeah.
think their signs are everywhere.
Right.
And they, I think it has a purpose in the timing of it. I would say it would probably be good for roofs that are at least over 10 years old, to get that done. But, there are other underlying issues that you have to consider before doing that.
And what would those things be?
Well, I would, definitely, make sure, of course, any types of nail pops on the roof or anything, you check that. You want to check out, make sure there's no, current leaks on the roof then, because, when they're washing all that, you don't want water pouring into your house.
Yeah, I would
knocking,
think that.
knocking almost loose shingles off.
Yeah, exactly. And then washing granulars,
Right.
that can be washed off during that process. But my understanding is it's some sort of like, I don't know if it's like a conditioner
Yeah.
for the roof. It basically gives it the shingles more elasticity, and like they're more pliable. It stiffens them up a little bit more. But there's a lot of factors you have to weigh in there with, is the roof been properly ventilated? How's it aged? And is this really going to help the roof, or is it going to hurt the roof? Because you can hurt
Right.
the roof if you're doing these washes and stuff. And
So maybe
it really needs to be replaced.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Put a Band-Aid on it.
Yeah. A Band-Aid on a bullet.
yeah.
So I
Band-Aid.
know nothing about roofs. This may not even be a thing, but
Yeah.
is there something?
let's get ready for
Let's
this.
get ready for
I
this.
mean, put this in your pocket. This might be something you need to come up with.
Yeah.
Is there something that they can like spray on a roof to like hair has hairspray to keep it in place.
Like
Is there something
stiff,
that can
make it
seal a
stiff?
roof with?
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Like
take it from
holes,
power.
seal?
What is this wash that we're
Okay.
talking about?
Some kind of way.
I have to ask you this before you answer that question.
Yeah.
Did somebody at your luncheon learn today compare putting something on your roof to hairspray? I need to know, did
No,
that question
they
come
did
up?
not.
Okay, good. Okay.
Just Deidre.
I gotta feel my face getting ready. But it's a legit question. Because there could be.
It is a legit
This could be a
question.
market. You need to get on
It
this.
could be a market.
Get some
a
kind
lot
of seal for
A lot
the
of the
roof.
roofing companies now, I have seen that they're starting to add that to their their services.
What?
So, I won't say all of them, but I've seen a few. Not any.
I know what I'm talking
Not
about.
not any of the bigger companies that I've seen. It's usually some smaller companies that are doing it, offering it as a service, because it's really genius, honestly, because you can get, as a roofer, okay, from my perspective, here's
You
my
could have
perspective.
gone all day and not said it's
I mean, you're
genius.
my favorite person.
Well, my perspective is the goal is to get on the roof and do the
Yes.
inspection. That's
Right.
my goal. Like, your goal is to go show a house and, show that house or multiple houses
Yes.
and get to one that they like.
Right.
My goal is to get on the roof and to find damage.
Right.
If I find damage, then hey, or something that needs to be done, I can say, okay, this needs to be done. This is how much it costs, and here's what I think you need to do. So it's kind of genius on their part, because if they need a roof, they do roofing, or if you need a wash, we can do the wash for you. So they've got it's a little bit more of an upper hand there, I think, in some
Yeah.
instances, because the goal is to get on the roof. When I was with another company, door knocking, the goal was to get on the roof. You get to the door, you talk to somebody.
Right.
The objective is to get on the roof. How many roofs did you get on this week, Chris? I got on 10. Okay, I got on 5. That's the goal.
That'd be a good door knocking
That's a
week.
goal. But I think it's pretty genius, with that, having it as a service. A lot of people don't know a lot about it right now, though. So that's why there's a lot of questions about it, and it really hasn't came, around. There's not a lot of information. Not a lot of people have done it yet. So I think
It's not taken off just
Yeah.
yet.
not yet. Yeah.
But what I learned from that, what the number one thing you need to do?
You need to patent that.
Call somebody.
Call for an inspection first.
Yes.
And then make the decision
Yes.
on what needs to be done.
Yes.
So we know who to call, right?
We know who to call.
Yes.
So
Call Chris.
thank you so much, Chris, with Alabama Roof Detectives, for visiting with us today. We really appreciate it. Learned all about the roofs.
Thank you.
And your contact information will be in the bottom of the YouTube. So
Thank y'all so much for having me.
Thank you. It was awesome.
Thanks for listening. Please remember to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform, or subscribe to our YouTube channel, Your Neighbor, Your Agents. To contact Alicia, Deidre, or Lisa, please visit www.yourneighboryouragents.com.